Hello. So I'm going to give you a rundown of how to use the SAT and ACT answer analysis spreadsheets, and specifically focused on the different scripts that are available. So when you get your full version, you'll have a folder that has these contents. The data folder you can leave alone. It's necessary for everything to work, but you don't have to mess with it. So you'll go into the students folder and you'll see the template folder in here. So this students folder is where all of the student folders will be added by default. Actually, wherever the template student folder is located is where the folders will be added to. So I'll mention that a little bit more in a minute. So we'll come into the template folder, and to create a student folder, you'll come into either the SAT admin answer analysis spreadsheet or the ACT analysis spreadsheet. I'm going to go in here briefly, and you can see that in both spreadsheets, you're first going to have this error that you need to connect the data. And so go ahead and hit allow access, and then the data will populate through. And you have this menu button called scripts with a few different options here. So these three functions are also available on the SAT admin spreadsheet. This ACT test sheets will check the data to see if any new tests have been added, and if so, it will add a spreadsheet. So each of these corresponds to an ACT test. Create a student folder. We come up here, and if a student knows which test they are going to be focusing on, you can choose one of these two functions. If they are still deciding between SAT and ACT, this one will give them both folders. And then the first time you run the script on any spreadsheet, it's going to ask you for authorization. And since this project is not yet verified by Google, we're going to see this message, and we'll need to click Advanced, and then click that we're running this unsafe function. So that message will go away once Google verifies this. So give all permissions and run this. So it's going to then ask us for a student name, and it's going to name here. And you'll see over in the folder here that test student 2's folder has started to be generated, and so we'll give that a minute to complete. I appreciate you. Thanks. And then while that's running, by default, as I mentioned, your student folders get added to the student's parent folder, this top level folder. There, if you are okay with using a Gmail address to run these scripts and to own these files, then I can just transfer ownership to you. Okay, and then you can remove me as an editor so that I don't have access to your student folders or your student folder and its contents. However, if you have your own custom domain, even if it's on Google Workspace, Google will not allow me to transfer ownership to you. And so I will try this, but it's not going to work. Okay, and so even though that my domain is on Google Workspace, it's not letting me transfer it. And so the best thing to do if you want your own custom domain to be the owner of this, of your students folder, is create your own students folder somewhere in your drive, and then move your template student folder into that folder that you've created. Okay, and so that's going to automatically make it so that I don't have access to your student folders, and you'll be good to go. So the key being, just go somewhere in your drive, create your own students folder, and then go back to your template and move this into the students folder that you created. Okay, and so then the students will then get added, the student folders will then get added there. Okay. All right, so we've finished creating this folder, so we can go there now. And this is the same folder, by the way, that we're seeing right here. Okay. All right, so we have both SAT and ACT files here. And the ACT file, I don't believe currently has any scripts that are specific to, it might have one. None that are specific to the ACT spreadsheet. I will probably add this one, the add ACT test sheets. That one would make sense to include. But there's more going on the SAT side. So again, each copy that's made, you need to allow access. If you don't get this message, just let me know and I'll make sure you have permissions. So basically you get that just by hovering over this ref error and allowing access, and you'll see the answers flow through here in a moment. Okay. So then we now have these scripts available for a student's folder. Okay, so create SAT score report is basically done. So basically, once a student has completed a practice test, let's just go ahead and put in some made-up data here. These are some answers that they missed. And they got the harder second module, so they skipped the easier second module. Okay. Nobody knows the College Board scoring algorithm, so there's no way to calculate the scores based on their performance. So we're just going to make up values here. Let's say we have a 600 and a 650. So those will be where you put answers in. And then also need to put data down here for the math. Okay. All right. And so once there's data there, we will see the breakdown of the test over in the SAT-4 analysis. So this is SAT-4. And we can see how they did on each category in the test. And so from there, and we have the scores that show up here, and now we can actually run this create SAT score report. Okay, and again, since this is a new spreadsheet, a new copy of the spreadsheet, we have to give permissions again. Okay, and I want to run SAT-4, no space between SAT and 4. On to the next script. So we have these two scripts that kind of go hand in hand, and it's best if I kind of show you a little bit more about how these spreadsheets work before those are going to make sense. So in addition to our practice tests, we also have questions that the College Board has added to their educator question bank. So these are there's all these worksheets that are ultimately College Board questions that are separated by concept and by difficulty level. So we have boundaries 1, 2, and 3, as well as all these other concepts. And then we also have math over here. So we can see that we can always jump here to get to different sections. But ultimately, this is the admin template. So this is not the one that the student has access to. So we also have another spreadsheet that is meant for the student to put their answers in. And you can see this looks exactly the same, almost exactly the same as the admin sheet, except there is no answer column on the student side. And so they put their answers in here. Okay, and then those answers then automatically populate over to the admin spreadsheet. Oh, I'm not, there it is. I wasn't in the right section. Okay, so one thing that'll happen is that sometimes when I'm working with a student, I'll be putting their answers into the admin sheet, but unfortunately the import can only go one direction. So you can see that these darker colors, let me get one that's actually the right answer, so 1.8. So the darker colors indicate that they are coming from the student sheet and getting imported, while the lighter colors indicate that they're hard-coded. But the issue here is that if I'm putting in answers into the admin sheet during session, the student is not seeing that on their side. So we see these blanks here. And so the point of this first one is to sync them. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. And the way this works is it basically kind of hard codes or kind of pastes, kind of enters as values all of these answers. So instead of having a formula up here, once the script is complete, these are all going to be hard-coded values. And it's both going to lock those into the admin sheet so that they can no longer be changed, but it's also going to add the new answers from the admin sheet to the student sheet. So I'm going to let that run for a minute. It kind of, things kind of look a little haywire at times in here, but that's all part of the process. And so the other thing that these colors allow me to do is you'll notice that once the script is done and all of these are hard-coded, all of these answers are going to go to the lighter shade of green and red. Okay, so it says it's complete, and then it has to update the formatting still, and there you go. You can also see that these same answers show up on the student side, and those are filled in now. Okay, so kind of updating the student sheet is one benefit, and by the way, I try to run this script or this function whenever I finish a session, and so any answers that I've entered during our session will get copied over. The other benefit of these color coding is that if the student then goes in and answers more questions for homework, okay, I can very easily see what the new answers are, right? So the fact that they're darker shade, in fact, you can usually just scroll through pretty quick and see really easily where the darker colors are, and so that just reminds you what they did for homework. Sometimes I actually allow my students to choose their own homework based on this opportunity area sheet, based on how they're doing across all tests and College Board questions. And so since they can kind of pick their own homework, I don't necessarily know what they're going to be completing just from my own homework notes. Again, we should get a notification when it finishes. Okay. And so then we get a score report that combines the analysis here as well as the answers below. And this goes into a folder that the student has access to. So one thing I hadn't mentioned yet, this top level folder, which is just the student name, remember we named this test student, this is the admin level or the tutor level access. So the student is not supposed to have access to these spreadsheets here, but they do get access here. So this is the folder that you would share with a student. And you can see that so these are the SAT and ACT folders that get created when we ran the test prep script for the new student, the new test prep student. And then score reports got added after that when we generated the score report. And so we can see here that we have the PDF here, and so this is great, for the students to have access to this data for one, because they don't have access to the top level spreadsheet, but also this is a great thing to send to a parent to give them an update.